Am I the asshole? For telling my niece it's her fault that my horse kicked her? I have a niece who is my older brother's and his wife-daughter. She's a very sweet girl and she loves my horses and the other horses I board, which are my friends. My brother and his wife live in the city, while I live in my uncle's ranch on my mother's side in a different state. My brother and I have different moms but same dad. They sent my niece to come stay with me for a few months, which I greatly accepted. She's been good and she calls her friends back at her home state and FaceTimes her parents once in a while. She's a great help with feeding my animals and my horses. The only problem is, she doesn't know how to ride horses and sometimes teases the horses. I have two very young horses, a filly and a colt, which are very excited horses, and I don't really allow her in the field with them, as they like to kick and buck even when people are around. And I have an old stallion which was my first horse my uncle got me. His name is Rooster and he is 32 years old. That is my niece's favorite horse, she always wants to ride him. But I don't allow anyone to ride him and I don't ride him no more. He's very patient and kind but he doesn't like anyone touching his back legs and his tail. When you walk behind him he will kick, but when he knows you are there, he doesn't mind being touched back there as long as anyone approaches him in the front. Overall he's a great horse. She will tease him with a lunging whip by tickling his back legs and his tail, trying to get him to kick. I have told her numerous times and warned her. She still continues to do it behind my back. Well, I told her to go get Rooster out of the pasture and into his stall. She went to go and get him and I heard a scream in the barn. I got over there and she was holding on to her leg, crying in pain, while Rooster ran back to the pastures. I asked her what happened and she said Rooster had kicked her left thigh, and I asked her if she touched him on the back legs or his tail. She said she pushed him on his tail to get him in his stall, and that's when he kicked her and ran off. She started cursing about Rooster and doesn't want to be around him. I told her it's her fault she provoked him and for not listening to me after so many warnings. I told her that bruise on her leg is a lesson now to be careful around bigger animals, especially ones that can kick at any moment. She can walk it off, and she called her parents after. They called me and told me that it was my fault for not supervising her and that they're gonna get her home. I told them everything but they won't listen, and my sil told me I need to get rid of Rooster. I told her no and hung up. Now I am wondering, am I the asshole? Not the asshole. She's 14, not 4. 14-year kids should not need constant supervision to ensure that they don't do something they were told not to do. Also, teasing an animal, especially an aging animal, is a crappy thing to do. Tell her parents that you would like them to fetch her, and that you'll consider allowing her to visit again when she's mature enough not to sneak around behind your back and disobey your specific instructions. I have kids this age and they are absolutely old enough to know better. Not the asshole. 14 is old enough to take directions and warnings. You have told her several times not to do what she did. She didn't listen and continued to do it anyway. Rooster gave her a lesson in why she should listen to warnings, directions. I mean, if you keep telling a kid not to touch a stove because it's hot, and they don't listen and touch the stove and get burned, are you going to throw the stove out? To me this is the logic of her mother. Not the asshole. Weird that she wants to tease the horse, she seems a bit mean. What's up with that? Not the asshole. This wasn't the first time she touched the horse and you have told her several times not to. So yes, it is her fault she got kicked. And if your brother's daughter aren't even living at your property, what right do they have to tell you to get rid of Rooster? I know who I'd be getting rid of. Not the asshole. I've known enough teenage horse girls to know that people that age can absolutely learn how to behave around a horse. Animals and humans alike have their instruction manual of things they like and don't like. Niece was being an arrogant human, fucked around and found out. And the fact that it's just a bruise shows how relatively mild Rooster's jab was. ESH for still allowing her around the horse that you knew was likely to kick her. Yeah, she's 14 and you warned her, but you also knew she was still doing it and was like to get hurt. 14 is old enough to understand that an animal doesn't want to be touched on the back. She was provoking the horse. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. The brat was tormenting the animal, who was perfectly within his rights to tell her off. Soft, you're the asshole. A person who won't take safety seriously around horses should not be allowed around horses, especially ones known to kick. I grew up riding and several people I knew, including my own mother, died because they weren't as careful as they should have been. Do not let her back until she can prove she's responsible. You're both lucky she only got kicked in the leg. You're the asshole. You sent someone you knew would tease a horse to that horse even without the kick. That makes you an R and responsible for the outcome. If you didn't know about the teasing, then maybe you'd be in the clear, but reacting to an injury by blaming the person who was hurt is kind of a dick move too. ESH. If you know she teases him like that, I can't imagine why you would let her be around him unsupervised. Not the asshole. She's 14, which is plenty old enough to understand cause and effect and consequences, and you warned her multiple times. Personally, I'm not babysitting a 14-year-old, so if she and her parents are not ready to appreciate that all animals are, at their core, animals, which makes them unpredictable and dangerous when mishandled, she's not ready to visit without her parents to keep an eye on her. ESH. How did you in your stellar intelligence believe a 14-year-old with no farm experience is gonna be trustworthy to do unsupervised work with large farm animals? You knew she didn't respect their abilities. Lol. Be grateful she didn't get her head kicked in. ESH. Horse care 101, never approach a horse from behind, they will mistake you for a predator. I was around horses from the time I was 6. And that's one of the first lessons drilled into kids. But you suck for not telling her parents to pick her up sooner. You know she harasses this horse, which is quite old. She is causing it anxiety because she finds it funny, and you never did anything to really stop it. You're the asshole for leaving her alone with an animal she is obviously not responsible enough to trust with. If someone, a child or adult, cannot behave around an animal, they should not be left alone with it. Period. She's still a child, you're the adult, you should have known better. And I'm saying you're an R because not only did you fail to protect your niece even from her own bad behavior, you did not protect your horse. Replace horse with dog, and kick with bite, and they could have your animal put down. Not the asshole. A 14-year-old knows not to play with fire. It's her fault she did this despite repeated warnings. ESH. Frankly, you're right, but I cannot fathom why you would allow your niece around your horses if she intentionally teases them despite you telling her not to. This whole situation could have been avoided by you simply saying no to your niece being around your horses at all. Special extra hate for yourself for saying you should get rid of Rooster, WTF. Man, 14 is old enough to learn a hard lesson. It's also old enough to do chores around the farm without constant adult supervision. You, dear editor, are not the asshole. ESH. Don't let people who enjoy teasing and provoking animals around your animals. Your sil can bugger off as well. Not the asshole. You repeatedly warned your niece about the dangers of provoking the horse, and she didn't listen. It's unfortunate that she got hurt, but she needs to learn to respect the boundaries of animals and take responsibility for her actions. You are definitely not the asshole. At 14, your niece is fully old enough to understand instructions and has to accept if she does what she is told not to, then she gets consequences. Running to mommy and daddy for her own stupid mistakes shows she lacks taking responsibility for her actions. Send her home as she is not ready to be near horses. Natar. All animals need to be respected, especially ones that can do real damage like horses. It sounds like you did everything right in warning her constantly. She is old enough to know to listen and probably knows not to push people's buttons, so should know not to push animals either. She and her parents should be grateful it is just a bruise and count it as a lesson learned in respecting boundaries, especially of animals.